A poor man encounters a millionaire woman trapped in an elevator. What she asks him to do changes their lives forever. Hello and welcome to 80s Love Stories, where I, your favorite narrator, Christopher, bring you an exciting love story straight from the unforgettable 1980s. Get ready for a journey full of nostalgia and incredible twists. Today's story is truly remarkable, with an ending that's sure to touch your heart and leave you amazed. So, stay with me until the very last moment. I hope this experience is unforgettable for you, and may God bless you and your family. Now, let's get started. New York City, 1983. Henry Martinez wiped the sweat from his forehead as he polished another brass elevator button in the towering Madison Square office building. At 32, he wasn't where he'd imagined he'd be in life, working as a maintenance man, living paycheck to paycheck in a tiny Brooklyn apartment. But he took pride in his work, making sure every surface gleamed under the fluorescent lights. The late November evening was winding down, most office workers having left hours ago. Henry checked his watch, 8:45 p.m., just a few more floors to go before he could head home. The radio clipped to his belt crackled with the building's maintenance channel, playing soft hits from the latest Billboard charts. As he moved to the next elevator, a commotion from down the hall caught his attention. The clicking of high heels against marble flooring echoed through the empty corridor, followed by frustrated muttering. "No, Michael, I won't sign off on this. The numbers don't add up, and you know it." A woman's voice rang out, sharp and clear. "I don't care if the board meeting is tomorrow morning. I won't approve a merger based on manipulated projections." Henry glanced up to see Patricia Morrison, CEO of Morrison Industries and one of the most powerful women on Wall Street, striding toward the elevators, phone pressed to her ear. Her tailored blazer and pencil skirt screamed power and wealth, a stark contrast to Henry's worn uniform. He quickly stepped aside, making himself invisible as she jabbed the elevator call button repeatedly. Even in his position, Henry knew who Patricia Morrison was. Her face had been on the cover of Time magazine just last month, dubbed the Ice Queen of Wall Street for her ruthless business acumen. "We'll discuss this tomorrow," she snapped into the phone before hanging up. The elevator dinged, and she stepped inside without a glance in Henry's direction. He watched as the doors began to close, then heard an ominous grinding sound he'd come to recognize in his years of maintenance work. "Wait!" he called out, but it was too late. The doors shut, and seconds later, the grinding noise intensified, followed by a violent shudder that vibrated through the elevator shaft. The emergency lights flickered on as the regular power died. Henry's radio crackled to life. "Code red in elevator 3. Possible mechanical failure," the dispatcher announced. "Maintenance needed immediately." He grabbed his tools and rushed to the control panel, already knowing this would be a complex repair job. Through the elevator's emergency speaker, he could hear Patricia Morrison's controlled but increasingly frustrated voice, demanding to be let out. "Ma'am," he called through the speaker, "this is Henry from maintenance. The elevator's main cable system appears to have malfunctioned. I'm working on restoring power, but it may take some time." "How long?" Her voice was sharp, businesslike. "At least an hour, maybe more. The backup generator should kick in soon for lighting and air circulation." He paused, then added, "Try to stay calm and conserve energy. I'll keep you updated on my progress." A heavy sigh came through the speaker. "Just fix it quickly. I have important documents in here that need to be reviewed before tomorrow's meeting." As Henry began his work, he couldn't help but wonder about the woman trapped inside. Patricia Morrison was known for her ruthless business tactics and ice-cold demeanor, but right now, she was just another person stuck in an elevator, dependent on someone she'd never even bothered to notice before. Little did either of them know that this chance encounter would set in motion events that would change both their lives forever. In that moment, though, Henry focused on the task at hand, his experienced hands moving through the mechanical systems as the night grew deeper around them. The old building's ancient electrical system wasn't making his job any easier. As he worked, drops of sweat rolled down his neck, and the radio beside him played Madonna's latest hit, Holiday. The irony wasn't lost on him. There would be no holiday for either of them tonight. The emergency lights cast a soft blue glow inside the elevator as Patricia Morrison sat on the floor, her designer suit collecting dust. She'd given up standing in her heels after the first 30 minutes. The documents from her briefcase were spread around her, but the dim lighting made them difficult to read. "How's it coming along?" she called out, trying to keep the edge from her voice. "The main power coupling is completely shot," Henry replied through the speaker. "I'm trying to bypass it, but this building's wiring is older than both of us combined." Patricia smiled despite herself. There was something reassuring about his calm, steady voice. "What's your name again?" Henry Martinez." "Well, Henry Martinez, tell me something. How long have you worked here?" 7 years, he answered, his hands working steadily at the control panel. "Started right after my father passed. He used to do maintenance here too." Patricia absorbed this information, thinking about her own father, a self-made millionaire who'd built Morrison Industries from nothing. "Do you enjoy it?" "The maintenance work." There was a pause, filled only by the sound of tools against metal. "It's honest work," Henry finally said. "Not glamorous, but I take pride in doing it well. Every squeaky hinge oiled, every flickering light fixed, it all matters to someone." His words struck a chord with Patricia. In her world of hostile takeovers and billion-dollar deals, simple pride in one's work had become a foreign concept. "My father used to say something similar," she found herself saying. "Before he built the company, he worked as a door-to-door salesman, said he learned more about business selling vacuum cleaners than he ever did at Harvard." The radio in Henry's pocket crackled with Lionel Richie's All Night Long, its upbeat rhythm a stark contrast to their situation. "At least we have a soundtrack," Henry joked, and Patricia surprised herself by laughing. "I haven't heard this song since college," she admitted. "I was too busy studying while everyone else was at parties." "Let me guess, business major." "Economics and finance, double major." "Impressive," Henry said, and she could hear the genuine respect in his voice. It wasn't the usual fawning she got from business associates or the thinly veiled resentment from competitors. The conversation lulled as Henry concentrated on a particularly tricky piece of wiring. Patricia found her mind wandering to the board meeting tomorrow. The merger she'd been fighting against would make a lot of people very rich, but it would also cost hundreds of workers their jobs, workers like Henry, who took pride in their work and supported families. "How's your family handling the inflation?" she asked suddenly. "It's been rough on everyone this year." Henry's hands stilled for a moment. "No family to worry about. Never found the right person, I guess. Too busy working." He paused. "What about you? The magazines always speculate about the mysterious Patricia Morrison's personal life." "Same story," she replied, "though in my case, it's because most men can't handle a woman with more power than them." She hadn't meant to sound bitter, but the words carried years of frustration. "Their loss," Henry said simply, and something in his tone made Patricia's heart skip a beat. The emergency lights flickered, and Patricia instinctively drew her knees closer to her chest. "Henry." "Just a second," he called back, his voice steady and reassuring. "The backup generator's being temperamental. I've almost got it." The lights stabilized, but Patricia found herself wishing they hadn't. In the darkness, it had been easier to forget who she was, who he was, and all the social barriers that existed between them. In the darkness, they were just two people sharing stories in the night. "Patricia," Henry's voice came through the speaker again. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "That merger you were talking about on the phone earlier, does it involve the Madison Square building?" Patricia felt her throat tighten. "Yes. How did you know?" "There have been rumors. The maintenance staff, we hear things. People don't really notice us, so they talk freely around us." He paused. "A lot of good people work in this building." The weight of his words hung in the air between them. Patricia looked down at the merger documents scattered around her, seeing them with new eyes. Numbers on a page, that's all they had been. But now they had faces, names, stories. They had Henry. The elevator's temperature was rising despite the late hour. Patricia had removed her blazer, leaving just her silk blouse. Her perfectly styled hair was starting to curl at the edges from the humidity. "I think I'm getting closer," Henry announced, his voice slightly strained from exertion. "The bypass is working, but there's another problem with the mechanical systems." A bead of sweat rolled down Patricia's neck. "Take your time. I'm not going anywhere." The distant sound of Henry's tools provided a steady rhythm as Patricia returned to studying the merger documents. The numbers that had seemed so clear before now blurred before her eyes. 342 positions eliminated. Cost-saving measures, workforce optimization, corporate buzzwords that masked the human cost. "Tell me about your father," she said suddenly, needing a distraction from her thoughts. There was a pause in the metallic sounds. "He was the hardest working man I've ever known," Henry replied. "Came from Puerto Rico with nothing but hope and determination. Worked 2 jobs while learning English at night. Never complained, never gave up." "Sounds like someone else I know," Patricia said softly. "I'm just trying to live up to his example." Henry's voice carried a mix of pride and melancholy. "He always said, 'He, Joe, in America, honest work and a kind heart will take you far.'" Patricia felt something twist in her chest. "And has it? I'm still here, aren't I?" The warmth in his voice made her smile. Though being trapped in an elevator with Patricia Morrison wasn't part of the plan. Life rarely goes according to plan, she mused, thinking of her own path. When I took over the company after my father's heart attack, everyone said I wouldn't last 6 months, that a woman couldn't handle it, so I became harder, colder, proved them all wrong. At what cost? Henry's question was gentle, without judgment. Patricia opened her mouth to respond, but a sudden grinding noise from above made her jump. The elevator shuddered ominously. "Henry!" Her voice wavered for the first time that night. "Don't worry, it's just the old cables settling. I've got you." His steady voice instantly calmed her racing heart. "Why don't you tell me about your father? The real man, not the business legend." Patricia leaned back against the elevator wall, letting memories wash over her. He loved jazz. Every Sunday he'd play his old records. Duke Ellington, Count Basie. Said you couldn't trust a person who didn't appreciate good music. She smiled at the memory. "He taught me to dance in his study, standing on his feet while Sinatra played." "The Ice Queen of Wall Street knows how to dance," Henry teased. "I haven't. Not since." She trailed off, remembering the last time she'd danced with her father at the company's 25th anniversary gala, 2 months before his heart attack. "Things changed after I took over. Everything became about proving myself, protecting his legacy." The radio switched to Frank Sinatra's "The Way You Look Tonight." Henry started humming along softly, the sound carrying through the speaker. "You have a good voice," Patricia said, surprised by how much she wanted to keep him talking. "My mother was a music teacher. She'd be horrified to hear you say that." His chuckle was warm, genuine. "And though she'd be more horrified to know I'm working maintenance instead of pursuing music like she wanted. Why didn't you? Life happens. After Dad died, Mom got sick. Medical bills piled up. This job had steady pay, good benefits. Sometimes we have to put dreams aside for practical reasons." Patricia thought about the merger documents again. How many dreams would be put aside if it went through? How many families would struggle with bills, with medical expenses? A loud click followed by a hum interrupted her thoughts. The main lights flickered weakly. "Progress," Henry announced triumphantly. The powers partially restored. "Now for the mechanical system." "Henry," Patricia said, gathering her courage, "if you could do anything, be anything, what would you choose?" The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken possibilities. "I'd open a music school," he finally said. "Something small in the neighborhood. Give kids a chance to learn, regardless of whether their families could afford it. Dad always said education was the key to a better future." He paused. "Silly dream, right?" "No," Patricia whispered. "Not silly at all." She looked down at the papers scattered around her, years of business training warring with something new stirring in her heart. In the dim light of the elevator, surrounded by financial projections and profit margins, Patricia Morrison made a decision that would change not only her life, but the lives of countless others. She just didn't know it yet. The clock on Patricia's Rolex showed 11:30 p.m., nearly 3 hours trapped in this metal box, yet somehow the time had flown by. The air was thick with unspoken words and possibilities. "Hey, tell me about your neighborhood," she said, organizing the merger documents into neat piles. "The one where you'd want to open your music school." Henry's tools clinked against metal as he worked. It's not much to look at, but the community's strong. Kids play stickball in the streets after school. Mrs. Rodriguez from the corner store gives free candy to the little ones. Mr. Chen teaches Tai Chi in the park every morning. Sounds wonderful, Patricia said, imagining the scene. It is, but things are changing. Big developers buying up buildings, raising rents. Families that have lived there for generations are being pushed out. His voice carried a weight of resignation. That's just progress, they say. Patricia felt her cheeks flush with shame. Morrison Industries had been part of similar progress in other neighborhoods. "Son, it doesn't have to be that way," she said softly, more to herself than to Henry. The elevator shuddered again, stronger this time. Patricia instinctively grabbed the handrail. "Easy there," Henry called out. "Just testing the mechanical system. Should be ready soon." Patricia nodded, though he couldn't see her. Her fingers brushed against the merger papers, and she pulled out the property acquisition list. The Madison Square building was just the beginning. The plan included dozens of properties across the city, including a familiar neighborhood in Brooklyn. "Henry," she said, her heart racing. "Your neighborhood, is it near Atlantic Avenue?" The silence that followed confirmed her fears. "They're planning to revitalize the area," he finally said, his voice carefully neutral. "At least, that's what the notices say. Funny how they make it sound like they're doing us a favor." Patricia closed her eyes, remembering the board meeting where they discussed the strategic acquisition of undervalued properties. She'd approved it without a second thought. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what? It's not your fault." But it was. Every decision she'd made in the name of profit, every time she'd chosen shareholders over people, it had led to this moment. The radio played Kansas's "Dust in the Wind," its melancholic melody filling the space between them. "My father," Patricia began, her voice trembling slightly, "he built the company from nothing because no one would give him a chance. He wanted to create opportunities for others." She laughed bitterly. "Somewhere along the way, we forgot that." "It's never too late to remember," Henry said quietly. Patricia stood up, pacing the small space. "The board meets tomorrow to vote on this merger. I was going to oppose it because the numbers didn't add up, but—" She took a deep breath. "The numbers aren't what's wrong with it." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe it's time for Morrison Industries to remember its roots, to build up communities instead of tearing them down." She pressed her hand against the elevator wall, as if she could reach through it to him. "But I'll need help. Someone who understands what communities really need." The mechanical sound stopped. "Patricia, I'm not offering charity on Henry. I'm offering a partnership, your music school dream. What if we could make it real? Not just one school, but a whole program. Give opportunities to kids who need them." "The board would never approve." "I own controlling interest," Patricia said, her voice stronger now. "After tomorrow, there will be no merger. Instead, we'll announce a new community development initiative. If you're willing to help lead it." The silence that followed seemed to stretch forever. Patricia held her breath, suddenly aware of how much she wanted, needed him to say yes. Finally, Henry spoke. "You're nothing like what they say in the magazines," Patricia laughed, a genuine sound that echoed in the small space. "Maybe I needed to be trapped in an elevator to remember who I really am." A loud clank resonated through the shaft, followed by the whir of machinery coming to life. "Well," Henry said, "perfect timing. Because I think I just fixed the elevator." The car jerked slightly, then began to move. Patricia quickly gathered her documents, her mind racing with plans and possibilities. As the elevator descended, she realized she wasn't ready for this night to end. The doors opened to reveal Henry, his uniform stained with grease, tools scattered around him. Their eyes met, and for a moment, everything else faded away. Then, Michael Burton, her VP of Operations, rushed forward. "Patricia, thank God you're all right. The board's been calling non-stop about the merger." "The merger's off," Patricia said firmly, her eyes still on Henry. "We have a new direction to discuss." The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind of activity. Patricia's announcement at the board meeting had caused an uproar, but she stood firm. The business papers were having a field day. Ice Queen melts. Morrison Industries takes surprising turn. read one headline. Henry had taken a leave of absence from his maintenance job to help develop the community initiative. Today, they were meeting in her office to review plans for the first music school. "These contractor quotes seem high," Henry said, frowning at the papers spread across Patricia's desk. He'd traded his maintenance uniform for a button-down shirt and slacks, but refused to wear a tie. "I know some local craftsmen who do quality work for half the price." Patricia smiled, watching him work. He'd brought a practical wisdom to the project that no amount of MBA training could provide. "Make the calls. I trust your judgment." Their eyes met briefly before both looked away. They'd been dancing around this growing tension since that night in the elevator, keeping things strictly professional. But sometimes, when their hands brushed over documents or their eyes met across a conference table, the electricity between them was undeniable. "The board's still pushing back on the community housing initiative," Patricia said, changing the subject. "Can they say it's too risky? Show them this." Henry pulled out a folder filled with letters from local residents. Real people, real stories, not just numbers on a spreadsheet. Patricia took the folder, her fingers lingering where his had been. "You're good at this, you know, seeing the big picture while never losing sight of the individual stories." "Had a good teacher," he replied softly. "Someone showed me that even the most powerful businesswoman in New York has a heart under her corporate armor." The intercom buzzed before Patricia could respond. "Miss Morrison, Mr. Burton is here with the investment committee." Reality crashed back in. Patricia straightened her blazer, the professional mask sliding back into place. "Send them in." Michael Burton led the group of stern-faced executives into the office, his disapproval evident as he glanced at Henry. "Patricia, we need to discuss these community development plans," Michael began. "The shareholders are concerned about the direction of the company. Your father built this empire on smart business decisions, not charity cases." Patricia felt her temper flare, but Henry spoke first. "Mr. Burton, did you know that Patricia's father's first business loan came from a community credit union, when no bank would take a chance on him?" The room fell silent. Patricia looked at Henry in surprise. She'd never told him that story. "I did my research," and he said quietly, "just like I researched how Morrison Industries' stock has actually risen since announcing the new initiative. Turns out, social responsibility is good business." Michael sputtered, but the other committee members were nodding thoughtfully. "The music school opens next month," Patricia announced. "I invite all of you to attend. See firsthand what your investment is building." After the committee left, Patricia turned to Henry. "How did you know about my father's loan?" "Found an old newspaper article, 1952, Brooklyn Daily Eagle. They ran a small piece about local businesses." He smiled. "Your father said something that stuck with me. Success isn't about climbing over others. It's about lifting them up with you." Patricia felt tears prick at her eyes. It had been so long since anyone had truly understood what her father's legacy meant. "I should go," Henry said, gathering his papers. "Early meeting tomorrow with the neighborhood council." "Stay," Patricia said suddenly. "I mean, would you like to get dinner? To discuss the project, of course." Henry's hand paused on his briefcase. "Just the project." "Well," Patricia felt her cheeks warm. "Maybe we could discuss other things too, like why you really researched my father's story." For a moment, neither moved. The setting sun painted the office in shades of gold, and somewhere in the building, a radio played the Police's "Every Breath You Take." "Dinner would be nice," Henry finally said. "I know a great little Italian place in my neighborhood. Not exactly what you're used to." "Perfect," Patricia interrupted. "I'm tired of fancy restaurants where the portions are tiny and everyone's watching their backs instead of enjoying their meal." As they walked out together, Patricia noticed Michael watching from his office, his expression thunderous. She knew there would be more battles ahead. The old guard wouldn't give up easily, and crossing the social barriers between her and Henry would scandalize New York society. But for the first time in years, she felt truly alive. That night in the elevator hadn't just changed her business strategy, it had awakened something in her heart that had been dormant for far too long. December arrived with a bitter cold snap and fresh challenges. The Italian restaurant had become their regular meeting spot, away from the prying eyes of Manhattan society. Tonight, Patricia sat across from Henry in their usual corner booth, an untouched plate of pasta in front of her. "Michael's been meeting with board members behind my back," she said quietly. "Emma from accounting warned me. He's trying to gather support for a vote of no confidence." Henry reached across the table, his hand stopping just short of hers. "Because of the community projects?" "Partly." Patricia met his eyes, "but mostly because of us." The word hung between them. Us. They hadn't put a name to whatever was growing between them, but the whole company had noticed their closeness. The maintenance worker and the CEO sharing lunch in her office, arriving early for meetings just to talk, their heads bent together over community development plans. "I won't let them destroy what we're building," Patricia continued. "The music school opens next week. 3 more neighborhoods have requested community centers. We're making real change." "That's what scares them," Henry said. "Change means losing control, and Michael Burton likes control." As if summoned by his name, Michael appeared at their table, his expensive overcoat dusted with snow. "Well, isn't this cozy?" His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Patricia, we've worked together for 15 years. I thought we were friends. Why didn't you tell me about your special interest in community relations?" Patricia straightened, her CEO persona sliding into place. "My personal life isn't company business, Michael." "It is when you're dragging Morrison Industries into some misguided social experiment." He turned to Henry. "No offense, but you're way out of your league here, both professionally and otherwise." Henry stood slowly, his quiet dignity making Michael's expensive suit look somehow cheap. "Mr. Burton, I've watched you come through the building lobby for 7 years. Not once did you look the security guard in the eye. Not once did you thank the cleaning staff. You think that makes you superior. I think it just makes you small." Michael's face reddened. "Patricia, you need to end this now. The board meets on Monday. If you want to keep your position, cut the community program and end whatever this is." He gestured between them. "Don't throw away everything your father built for some maintenance man with delusions of grandeur." "My father," Patricia said, rising to stand beside Henry, "would have recognized a man of true worth when he saw one. Goodbye, Michael." After Michael stormed out, Patricia sank back into the booth, trembling slightly. "Monday's going to be ugly." "Hey," Henry said softly, finally allowing his hand to cover hers. "We knew this wouldn't be easy, but you're not alone anymore." Patricia turned her hand over, their fingers intertwining for the first time. The simple contact sent warmth through her entire body. "There's something you should know," she said. "I've been having our lawyers review the company bylaws. If the board forces me out, the community development program goes with me. But I've already set up a separate foundation. It's fully funded. The music school, the community centers, they're protected." Henry stared at her. "You risked everything." "No," she interrupted. "For the first time in years, I'm not risking everything. I'm fighting for what matters." She squeezed his hand. "That night in the elevator, you reminded me who I really am, who I want to be." The old jukebox in the corner crackled to life, playing Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart. A few other diners got up to dance in the small space between tables. "Miss Morrison," Henry said, a hint of his maintenance man formality returning, "would you like to dance?" Patricia looked at their joined hands, at this man who had turned her world upside down with his quiet strength and unwavering integrity. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I would." As Henry led her to the makeshift dance floor, Patricia caught their reflection in the restaurant's window, the CEO and the maintenance man swaying together while snow fell outside. On Monday, she might lose her company, but here, in this moment, she felt richer than she'd ever been. Monday morning arrived with a devastating blow. The New York Times business section carried the headline, "Morrison Industries in Turmoil. Inside Sources Reveal CEO's Questionable Decisions." The article, clearly fed by Michael, painted Patricia as an unstable leader who had fallen under the influence of an unqualified advisor. Patricia stood in her office, watching snow fall over Manhattan. The article lay on her desk beside a stack of resignation letters from key executives, Michael's allies making their positions clear before the board meeting. A knock at the door made her turn. Henry stood there, looking concerned. "I saw the article." "They're trying to discredit you," Patricia said, anger coloring her voice, "making you sound like some sort of con man who manipulated his way into the company." "I've been called worse," Henry said with a slight smile, "though Svengali-like maintenance man is a new one." Despite everything, Patricia laughed. It was one of the things she'd grown to love about him, his ability to find humor even in the darkest moments. Love. The word had slipped into her thoughts so naturally, it took her breath away. "So see, the board meeting starts in an hour," she said, trying to focus. "Michael has the votes. I'll lose control of the company." Henry moved closer, close enough that she could smell the familiar mix of coffee and aftershave. "You haven't lost yet. Remember what you told me about your father? How he faced down a hostile takeover in '65. Patricia's eyes widened. "You really did do your research." "Know your enemy's playbook," Henry quoted. "Are your father's words, not mine." Patricia turned to her desk, pulling out an old leather portfolio. Dad kept everything, every contract, every agreement. Her fingers flew through the papers until she found what she was looking for. Here, the original company charter. They bent over the document together, their heads nearly touching. As they read, Patricia's expression changed from desperation to determination. "This could work," she whispered. "But I'll need help," Henry smiled. "I know just the people." The next hour was a whirlwind of activity. Henry disappeared while Patricia made calls. By the time she walked into the boardroom, her head was high and her steps were sure. The massive oak table was full. Michael sat at one end, surrounded by his supporters. Empty chairs marked the spaces where her resigned executives should have been. The remaining board members watched her with a mix of sympathy and resignation. "Before we begin," Michael said smoothly, "I move to add an emergency item to the agenda, a vote of no confidence in the current leadership of Morrison Industries." "Seconded," came a voice from his end of the table. "Very well," Patricia said calmly. "But first, I believe we have some special guests who would like to address the board." The doors opened and people began filing in. Mrs. Rodriguez from the corner store, still wearing her apron. Mr. Chen, fresh from his morning Tai Chi class. The security guard from the lobby. The cleaning staff from the building. Regular people whose lives had been touched by Morrison Industries. New direction. And with them came others. The bank president who'd given Patricia's father his first loan. Former employees from the early days. Even old competitors who'd known and respected the elder Morrison. "What is this?" Michael demanded, half rising from his chair. "This," Patricia said, "is Morrison Industries. Not just the executives and shareholders, but the community that built it. The people who believed in my father's vision." She pulled out the company charter. "According to this document, any major change in company direction requires consultation with the Community Advisory Board. A board my father established in 1952, and that was never officially dissolved." Michael's face paled. "That's ancient history. It's not relevant." "It's still legally binding," Patricia interrupted. "These people represent that board, and they have some thoughts about your proposed takeover." For the next hour, person after person stood to speak. They talked about the music school, about affordable housing initiatives, about hope returning to neighborhoods that had been written off by corporate interests. They spoke about Patricia's father, about his commitment to building communities, not just profits. The board members listened, many of them shifting uncomfortably in their seats as they recognized the truth in these stories. This wasn't just about business strategy. It was about the soul of the company. Finally, Mrs. Rodriguez stepped forward. "My store was going under last year. The big chains were squeezing us out. Then Miss Morrison's program provided small business support. Now, we're doing better than ever. And you know what? Those fancy executives who want to take over, they shop at my store now because we provide something their expensive markets don't. We provide heart." She turned to Patricia. "Just like your father did when he first came to our neighborhood. He never forgot where he came from, and neither have you." Michael stood up, his face red. "This is ridiculous. We're running a business, not a charity." "Actually," said one of the older board members, "we're doing both, and doing them well." He pulled out a financial report. "Our stock is up. Community goodwill is at an all-time high. Employee satisfaction has doubled. And all because Patricia had the courage to remember what this company stands for. The vote, when it came, wasn't even close. Michael stormed out, taking his remaining supporters with him. The Community Advisory Board was officially reinstated, with Henry as its director. As the room cleared, Patricia remained at the table, overwhelmed by emotion. Henry approached quietly, sitting beside her. "Your father would be proud," he said softly. Patricia turned to him, tears in her eyes. "I couldn't have done this without you." "Yes, you could have. But I'm glad you didn't have to." They sat in comfortable silence, the late afternoon sun painting the boardroom in shades of gold. Outside, the city hummed with life, their city, with all its complexities and possibilities. "You know," Patricia said finally, "we never finished that dance." Henry stood, offering his hand. "Now the boardroom isn't exactly romantic." "I don't care." Patricia took his hand, letting him pull her close. "I'm tired of caring what others think, tired of holding back." They swayed together in the empty boardroom, no music playing except the rhythm of their hearts. Snow fell softly outside the windows, and somewhere in the building, a radio played Stevie Wonder's "I Just Called to Say I Love You." "Henry," Patricia whispered, looking up at him. "Yes? Thank you for fixing that elevator." His hand cupped her cheek gently. "Thank you for being trapped in it." Their first kiss was soft, tender, full of promise. It wasn't the end of their story. There would be more challenges, more battles to fight, more communities to build. But it was the beginning of something beautiful, something real. As the snow fell over New York City, Patricia Morrison and Henry Martinez danced in their boardroom, proving that sometimes the greatest journeys start with a broken elevator, and the greatest love stories don't need grand gestures. Just two hearts willing to see past the surface to what really matters. The music school opened the following week. Young voices filled the air with song, while proud parents watched their children discover new talents. Patricia and Henry stood in the back, hands clasped together, watching their dream become reality. And if anyone questioned the CEO of Morrison Industries dating the Director of Community Relations, well, they just weren't paying attention to what really mattered. Because in the end, it wasn't about titles or social status or what anyone else thought. It was about two people who found each other in the most unexpected place and together built something greater than themselves. Just like Patricia's father had done all those years ago, they were lifting others up as they climbed, proving that success and compassion could go hand in hand. And every year, on the anniversary of that fateful night, they would take the elevator to the top floor of the Morrison building just to remember where it all began. Sometimes the simplest moments become the most profound, and sometimes being trapped is the first step to being truly free. Thank you for watching today's story. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel to relive the magic of the 80s every day with our heartfelt stories. May God bless you and your family, and don't forget to click on the video popping up on the screen right now. It's another totally rad story you won't want to miss. See you in the next video, and stay awesome.